Welcome friends. In this unit, we discuss counting principle in the context of conjugacy classes. While considering some of its applications, we will state and give the proof of Cauchy's theorem. 1. Counting principle in conjugacy classes. In finite group theory, counting principle such as given by the class equation are powerful tools. It plays an important role in the development of the structure theory of finite groups. Definition 1. If A and B belongs to G, then B is said to be conjugate of A in G if there exists an element C belongs to G such that B is equal to CA C inverse. This relation of A and B is called conjugacy and is usually denoted by A related to B. The proof of the following result can be obtained easily. Lemma 1. Conjugacy is an equivalence relation on G. The equivalence relation conjugacy induces a partition on G and the corresponding equivalence classes are called conjugacy classes or conjugate classes. For A belongs to G, the conjugacy class of A denoted by C of A is given by C of A is equal to the set of all x belongs to G such that A related to x, that is equal to the set of all x belongs to G such that x is equal to YA Y inverse where Y belongs to G. Suppose G is a finite group, then the number of elements in C of A is also finite and is denoted by C suffix A. Since conjugacy classes are disjoint and their union is G, we obtain order of G is equal to summation C suffix A, where the sum runs over a set of A belongs to G taken 1A from each conjugate class. Equation 1 is a counting principle usually called the class equation of G. Definition 2. If A belongs to G, the normalizer of A in G denoted by N of A is the set consisting of precisely those elements in G which commute with A. That is, N of A is equal to the set of all x belongs to G such that XA is equal to AX. We note that N of A is a subgroup of G. The following result helps us to count the number of elements in the conjugacy class of A when the group G is finite. Theorem 1. If G is a finite group, then the number of elements conjugate to A belongs to G is the index of the normalizer of A in G, that is C suffix A is equal to order of G by order of normalizer of A. Proof. We note that C of A is equal to the set of all G belongs to G such that G is equal to XAX inverse where X belongs to G. That is, conjugacy class of A consists exactly of all the elements XAX inverse as X ranges over G. Hence, C suffix A measures the number of distinct XAX inverse. Our method of proof will be to show that two elements in the same left coset of normalizer of A in G yield the same conjugate of A, whereas two elements in different left cosets of normalizer of A in G give rise to different conjugates of A. In this way, we shall have a one-to-one correspondence between conjugates of A and left cosets of normalizer of A in G. Suppose that X and Y belongs to G are in the same left coset of normalizer of A in G, then Y is equal to Xn for some n belongs to N, and so Na is equal to An. Since Y inverse is equal to Xn all inverse is equal to N inverse into X inverse, we have Ya Y inverse is equal to Xn into A into N inverse into X inverse, that is equal to Xa into N inverse into X inverse, that is equal to XAX inverse, and hence X and Y result in the same conjugate of A. If, on the other hand, X and Y are in different left cosets of normalizer of A in G, we claim that XAX inverse not equal to YA Y inverse. Suppose this is not the case, then from xax inverse is equal to ya y inverse, we would deduce that ax inverse y is equal to x inverse ya. This in turn would imply that x inverse y belongs to normalizer of A. However, this implies that x and y are in the same left coset of normalizer of A in G, contradicting the fact that they are in different cosets. This completes the proof. Corollary: order of G is equal to summation order of G by order of normalizer of A, where this sum runs over all A taken one from each conjugate class. Proof: note that order of G is equal to summation C suffix A, where the sum runs over a set of A belongs to G using one A from each conjugate class. Hence, corollary follows from theorem 1. Algorithm for computing conjugates. The following algorithm will be helpful in computing conjugates. Algorithm: given that sigma belongs to Sn and theta belongs to Sn, where Sn is the symmetric group of n letters. To find theta sigma theta inverse, we proceed as follows. Suppose sigma sends I to j and theta sends I to s and j to t. Then theta sigma theta inverse sends s to t. In other words, to compute theta sigma theta inverse, replace every symbol in sigma by its image under theta. Example 1. Determine theta sigma theta inverse, where theta is equal to the product of the cycles cycle 1, 2, 3 and cycle 4, 7, and sigma is the product of the cycles cycle 5, 6, 7 and cycle 3, 4, 2. Solution: since theta sends 5 to 5, 6 to 6, 7 to 4, 3 to 1, 4 to 7 and 2 to 3, we have theta sigma theta inverse is obtained from sigma by replacing in sigma 5 by 5, 6 by 6, 7 by 4, 3 by 1, 4 by 7 and 2 by 3, so that theta sigma theta inverse is equal to the product of the cycles cycle 5, 6, 4 and cycle 1, 7, 3. Example 2. Verify theorem 1 by finding the conjugate classes of S3. Also verify the class equation. Solution: note that the elements of S3 are the identity permutation E, cycle 1, 2, cycle 1, 3, cycle 2, 3, cycle 1, 2, 3 and cycle 1, 3, 2. It can be seen that there are 3 conjugate classes in S3 and they are C of E is equal to the set consisting of E alone, C of cycle 1, 2 is equal to the set consisting of cycle 1, 2, cycle 1, 3 and cycle 2, 3. C of cycle 1, 2, 3 is equal to the set consisting of cycle 1, 2, 3 and cycle 1, 3, 2. Now to verify theorem 1, we find the normalizer of the identity permutation E, that of cycle 1, 2 and that of cycle 1, 2, 3. It can be seen that n of E is equal to S3, n of cycle 1, 2 is equal to the set consisting of E and cycle 1, 2, n of cycle 1, 2, 3 is equal to the set consisting of E, cycle 1, 2, 3 and cycle 1, 3, 2. Hence, G has a partition of 3 equivalence classes. Also, C suffix cycle 1, 2 is equal to order of S3 by order of normalizer of cycle 1, 2, that is equal to 6 by 2 and is equal to 3. And C suffix cycle 1, 2, 3 is equal to order of S3 by order of normalizer of cycle 1, 2, 3, that is equal to 6 by 3 and is equal to 2. This verifies theorem 1. Choose elements identity permutation E, cycle 1, 2 and cycle 1, 2, 3 from the 3 equivalence classes of G. Then C suffix E plus C suffix cycle 1, 2 plus C suffix cycle 1, 2, 3 is equal to 1 plus 3 plus 2 is equal to 6. As order of G is equal to 6, the class equation order of G is equal to C suffix E plus C suffix cycle 1, 2 plus C suffix cycle 1, 2, 3 is verified. Applications of theorem 1. We now consider some applications of theorem 1. We first recall the definition center set of G of a group G. Definition 3. The center set of G of a group G is given by set of G is equal to the set of all A belongs to G such that Ax is equal to Xa for all x belongs to G. It can be easily seen that set of G is a subgroup of G. Lemma 2. A belongs to center of G if and only if normalizer of A is equal to G. If G is finite, A belongs to center of G if and only if order of normalizer of A is equal to order of G. Proof. If A belongs to center of G, then Xi is equal to Ax for all x belongs to G, and hence normalizer of A is equal to G. Conversely, normalizer of A is equal to G implies Xi is equal to Ax for all x belongs to G, so that A belongs to center of G. Next, suppose G is finite. By the first part of the lemma, A belongs to center of G if and only if normalizer of A is equal to G. Since G is finite, this is equivalent to saying that order of normalizer of A is equal to order of G. This completes the proof. Theorem 2. If order of G is equal to p raised to n, where p is a prime number, then center of G is not the trivial group. Proof. Let A belongs to G, then normalizer of A is a subgroup of G. Hence, by Lagrange's theorem, order of normalizer of A is a divisor of order of G. Since order of G is equal to p raised to n, order of normalizer of A must be of the form order of normalizer of A is equal to p raised to n suffix A, where n suffix A is an integer with 0 less than or equal to n suffix A less than or equal to n. By the second part of lemma 2, for a finite group G, A belongs to center of G if and only if order of normalizer of A is equal to order of G. Hence, in this situation, we have A belongs to center of G if and only if p raised to n suffix A is equal to p raised to n, that is if and only if n suffix A is equal to n. We write out the class equation of G letting Z is equal to order of center of G. We get p raised to n is equal to order of G, that is equal to summation p raised to n by p raised to n suffix A, where this sum runs over all A taken one from each conjugate class. However, since there are exactly Z elements such that n suffix A is equal to n, we find that p raised to n is equal to Z plus summation p raised to n by p raised to n suffix A, where summation is taken over all n suffix A less than n, one A being taken from each conjugate class. We now note that p is a divisor of the left hand side. Also, since n suffix A is less than n for each p raised to n by p raised to n suffix A in the summation of the right hand side, we have p divides p raised to n by p raised to n suffix A, so that p is a divisor of each term of this sum and hence a divisor of this sum. Therefore, p divides Z. Since E belongs to the center of G, we have Z is not equal to 0. Thus, Z is a positive integer divisible by the prime p. Therefore, Z strictly greater than 1. But then, there must be an element besides E in center of G, that is, center of G not equal to the trivial group. Corollary. If order of G is equal to p square, where p is a prime number, then G is abelian. Proof. To prove G is abelian, it is enough to prove that center of G is equal to G. Since order of G is a power of prime p, by theorem 2, center of G is not equal to the trivial group. Hence, the subgroup center of G is such that order of center of G is equal to p square or p. Case 1. If order of center of G is equal to p square, then using the fact that order of G is equal to p square, we have center of G is equal to G. Hence, in this case, G is abelian. Case 2. If order of center of G is equal to p, then center of G is a proper subgroup of G, so that there is an element A belongs to G such that A doesn't belong to center of G. Thus, normalizer of A is a subgroup of G, center of G is a subgroup of normalizer of A, and A belongs to normalizer of A, so that order of normalizer of A greater than p. Now, by Lagrange's theorem, order of normalizer of A must divide order of G is equal to p square. This implies order of normalizer of A is equal to p square. Therefore, A belongs to center of G, a contradiction. Thus, order of center of G is equal to p is not possible. Hence, only case 1 is possible and hence G is abelian. This completes the proof. Cauchy's theorem. Now we recall Cauchy's theorem for abelian groups. Our purpose is to extend the result to non-abelian groups also. Theorem 3. Cauchy's theorem for abelian group. Suppose G is a finite abelian group and P divides order of G where P is a prime number, then there is an element A in G other than the identity element E such that A raised to P is equal to E. Theorem 4, Cauchy's theorem. If P is a prime number and P divides order of G, then G has an element of order P. Proof. Our aim is to find an element A belongs to G such that A is not the identity element E and satisfying A raised to P is equal to E. To prove existence of such an element A, we proceed by induction on order of G. That is, we assume the theorem to be true for all groups T such that order of T less than order of G. The result is vacuously true for groups of order 1 as there is no prime number dividing 1. We note that for any proper subgroup W of G, we have order of W less than order of G. Case 1. If also P divides order of W, then by induction hypothesis there is an element of order P in W and thus there would be such an element in G. Case 2. The remaining case to be considered is that P is not a divisor of the order of any proper subgroup of G. In particular, if A doesn't belong to center of G, then normalizer of A is a proper subgroup of G and hence by the assumption of case 2, P is not a divisor of order of normalizer of A. The class equation for order of G is order of G is equal to order of center of G plus summation order of G by order of normalizer of A, where summation is taken over all n of A other than G. Since P divides order of G and P doesn't divide order of normalizer of A, we have that P divides order of G by order of normalizer of A, and so P divides summation order of G by order of normalizer of A, where summation is taken over all n of A other than G. Also, since P divides order of G, we conclude from equation 2 that P divides order of center of G. Thus, center of G is a subgroup of G whose order is divisible by P. But by our assumption, P is not a divisor of any proper subgroup of G. Hence, we are forced to accept that center of G is equal to G. But then G is abelian. Now, using Cauchy's theorem for abelian group, we obtain an element A in G other than the identity element E such that A raised to P is equal to E. Hence, by mathematical induction, we conclude that the result is true for every group having order with a divisor P. Partition of a positive integer. Definition 4. Given the integer n, the sequence of positive integers n1, n2, etc. nr, where n1 less than or equal to n2 less than or equal to etc. less than or equal to nr constitute a partition of n if n is equal to n1 plus n2 plus etc. plus nr. Notation. We denote the number of partitions of n by P of n. Example 4. Find P of n for n is equal to 1, 2, 3 and 4. Solution. P of 1 is equal to 1 since 1 is equal to 1 is the only partition of 1. P of 2 is equal to 2 since 2 is equal to 2 and 2 is equal to 1 plus 1 are the partitions of 2. P of 3 is equal to 3 since 3 is equal to 3, 3 is equal to 1 plus 2 and 3 is equal to 1 plus 1 plus 1 are the partitions of 3. P of 4 is equal to 5 since 4 is equal to 4, 4 is equal to 2 plus 2, 4 is equal to 1 plus 3, 4 is equal to 1 plus 1 plus 2 and 4 is equal to the sum of 4 ones. Before stating the next lemma, we may observe the following. We know that every permutation in Sn can be expressed as a product of disjoint cycles. If the cycles appearing in the product have lengths n1, n2, etc., nr respectively with n1 less than or equal to n2 less than or equal to etc. less than or equal to nr, then n is equal to n1 plus n2 plus etc. plus nr. That is, every time we break a given permutation in Sn into product of disjoint cycles, we obtain a partition of n. We shall say a permutation sigma belongs to Sn has the cycle decomposition n1, n2, etc. nr if the permutation can be written as the product of disjoint cycles of lengths n1, n2, etc. nr respectively with n1 less than or equal to n2 less than or equal to etc. less than or equal to nr. Example 5. Consider the permutation given by sigma belongs to S9, given by sigma is the permutation that maps 1 to 1, 2 to 3, 3 to 2, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 4, 7 to 7, 8 to 9 and 9 to 8. That is equal to the product of the cycles cycle 1, cycle 2, 3, cycle 4, 5, 6, cycle 7 and cycle 8, 9. This together with the fact that 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 is equal to 9 implies sigma has the cycle decomposition 1, 1, 2, 2, 3. Lemma 3. Two permutations in Sn are conjugate if and only if they have the same cycle decomposition. Proof. We first show that two permutations having the same cycle decomposition are conjugate. Let sigma be the product of the cycles cycle A1, A2, etc. AN1, cycle B1, B2, etc. BN2, etc. cycle X1, X2, etc. XNR, and tau is equal to the product of the cycles cycle alpha 1, alpha 2, etc. alpha N1, cycle beta 1, beta 2, etc. beta N2, etc. cycle chi 1, chi 2, etc. chi NR. Then by the algorithm for computing conjugates, tau is equal to theta sigma theta inverse, where theta is the permutation that maps A1 to alpha 1, A2 to alpha 2, etc. AN1 to alpha N1, B1 to beta 1, etc. BN2 to beta N2, etc. X1 to chi 1, etc. XNR to chi NR. Also, two conjugates have the same cycle decomposition is now trivial, for by the algorithm to compute a conjugate, replace every element in a given cycle by its image under the conjugating permutation. This completes the proof. Example 6. Let sigma is equal to the product of the cycles cycle 1, 2, cycle 3, 4, 5 and cycle 6, 7, 8, and tau is the product of the cycles cycle 7, 5, cycle 1, 3, 6 and cycle 2, 4, 8. These are permutations having the same cycle decomposition. They can be exhibited as conjugates by using the conjugating permutation that maps 1 to 7, 2 to 5, 3 to 1, 4 to 3, 5 to 6, 6 to 2, 7 to 4 and 8 to 8. We now restate lemma 3. Lemma 4. The number of conjugate classes in Sn is P of n, where P of n is the number of partitions of n. Proof. From lemma 3, we see that two permutations in Sn are conjugate if and only if they have the same cycle decomposition. Hence, the number of conjugate classes in Sn is the number of partitions of n. Hence, the result. Example 7. Find all the elements commuting with the permutation cycle 1, 2 in Sn. Solution. We observe that any permutation leaving both 1 and 2 fixed commutes with the permutation cycle 1, 2 in Sn. There are n minus 2 factorial such elements. Also, cycle 1, 2 commutes with itself. This way, we get 2 into n minus 2 factorial elements in the group generated by cycle 1, 2 and the n minus 2 factorial permutations leaving 1 and 2 fixed. We try to find other elements if there are. There are n into n minus 1 by 2 cycles of length 2, and these are precisely all the conjugates of cycle 1, 2. Thus, the conjugate class of cycle 1, 2 has in it n into n minus 1 by 2 elements. If the order of the normalizer of cycle 1, 2 is r, then by the counting principle, C suffix cycle 1, 2 is equal to order of Sn by order of normalizer of cycle 1, 2. We have n into n minus 1 by 2 is equal to order of Sn by r, that is equal to n factorial by r. Thus, r is equal to 2 into n minus 2 factorial. That is, the order of the normalizer of cycle 1, 2 is 2 into n minus 2 factorial. But we have exhibited 2 into n minus 2 factorial elements which commute with cycle 1, 2. Thus, the general element sigma commuting with cycle 1, 2 is sigma equal to cycle 1, 2 raised to I into tau, where I is equal to 0 or 1 and tau is a permutation leaving both 1 and 2 fixed. Example 8. Show that the permutation cycle 1, 2, 3, etc. n in Sn commutes only with its powers. Solution. Obviously, the given element commutes with all its powers, and this gives rise to n elements. Now any n cycle is conjugate to cycle 1, 2, 3, etc. n, and there are n minus 1 factorial distinct n cycles in Sn. Let U denotes the order of the normalizer of cycle 1, 2, 3, etc. n in Sn. Then order of Sn by U is equal to the number of conjugates of cycle 1, 2, 3, etc. n in Sn, that is equal to n minus 1 factorial, and hence U is equal to n factorial by n minus 1 factorial, that is equal to n. So the order of the normalizer of cycle 1, 2, 3, etc. n in Sn is n. The powers of cycle 1, 2, 3, etc. n have given us n such elements, and hence we conclude that cycle 1, 2, 3, etc. n commutes only with its powers. In this session, we have obtained a class equation in the context of conjugacy classes and have used it to prove many results, especially Cauchy's theorem for groups. List all conjugate classes in S3, find the C suffix A's and verify the class equation. List all conjugate classes in S4, find the C suffix A's and verify the class equation. The group G is equal to the set consisting of E, theta, A, B, C, theta A, theta B, theta C, where A square is equal to B square is equal to C square is equal to theta, theta square is equal to E, AB is equal to theta BA is equal to C, BC is equal to theta CB is equal to A, CA is equal to theta AC is equal to B, is called the group of quaternion units. List all conjugate classes in the group of quaternion units, find the C suffix A's and verify the class equation. List all conjugate classes in the dihedral group of order 2n, find the C suffix A's and verify the class equation. Notice how the answer depends on the parity of n.